arrived at Narooma with Montague Island looking a treat. The sun breaking through the clouds had the island looking like the jewel of the Sapphire Coast. A few hours later, the jewel had broken by the huge, unpredictable waves. Not normal along this coast, but then nor was the reason for them. These huge waves were caused by a combination of cyclones Betsy and Mark in northern Queensland. But that's the beauty of Narooma. The bar can stop you going outside, while inside, what a place. Talk about the fresh air making you hungry. Well, Matt, I think you better start on this magnificent spread.
Yeah, pretty good there.
Another thing about the Sapphire Coast is the amazing amount of estuaries that litter the entire coastline. Unlike our estuaries in Victoria, they're very, very tidal. And the quality of the water is A1. Now, the fishing is divided into two parts. The people chasing the mulloway and flathead go to the deepest part of the lakes. But old Uncle has a look at the sand flats for the sand whiting, also known here as yellowfin whiting, and also the diamond scaled sand mullet. And they give a great deal of fun in shallow water. You need the right bait, and you know that I'm a stickler for the fresh bait. I've got about an hour before the tide is right. I've got a magnificent spread from Liges, made up for me by Lyle and Jan right here on the banks of the Waggonga Inlet. I'm going to taste some of the beautiful wares, mainly local seafood, and then I'm going to hit the whiting. Get into it, Matt. Don't be shy. Come on now. We're doing okay here at the moment, Matt. Now look at this here. Look at some sandworms. Now, we have had some queries from time to time about these sandworms. Now, that bloke's heading for the deep, so I'll put my finger under there like that and get him out. And there's his head. Now, we've had some queries about which end is the head. Well, the thick part is the head, and that is the tail. If I was to go like that to the tail, see what happens? It just comes away. But because his head is pretty tough, I suppose just a little bit like mine, you can pick him up by the head and pop him in the bucket. Now, this bloke's getting away again. I'll just get under there with the forefinger and expose his head, and I can pull him out like that, and that is what we're after. The main diet of the whiting of Australia, whether it be King George, silver or sand, is the worm. And this is what they're after, the marine worms. We call them soft or sandworms or even podworms in Victoria. But whatever you call them, don't worry, the whiting love them. And Matt, I just had a little bit of a touch on that line there. And I've got, what's your rod there, Matt? Yep. I've got mine on.
Yep, I'm on too.
Are you?
Yep, that's it. You're starting to come around now.
All right then, we'll use that rod like it's designed, lifting and then winding. What do you reckon yours is?
I think it's a sand whiting.
Oh yeah. All right. Oh, nice fish too, Matt. Nice fish.
No, it's a sand mullet.
A sand mullet.
It's a nice mullet.
It's a nice mullet too. Well, we might have had a school of these come through. I reckon I might have the same type of fish, which is a sand mullet, which as against the yellow eye mullet in Victoria, these sand mullet are a very, very clean fish, but the way that mine's going, he's pulling the rod down like a whiting. Where Matt's came to the surface, I reckon I've got a whiting, and here he comes now. Now we'll have a look at Matt's sand mullet in a moment. This is a yellowfin whiting. Now, before I go any further, you will see that red bead and that bit of red tubing. Now that's not there because I want it to look nice. It's used as an attractor, and as the bait waves in the tide with a bunch of worms, it catches the whiting's eye because the worms and the sand sort of blend in together, but this flashing fluorescent red says, that looks very, very interesting to me, and they grab it. So that is a sand whiting. It's also known as a yellowfin whiting. For obvious reasons, there are your yellow fins. The recommended legal length is 27 centimetres. This is well over at about 31, 32. And as all Australian whiting, including the King George whiting, the yellowfin whiting is one of the top eating fish in the sea, and the Narooma estuary is an excellent place to go fishing for them. Now, what I'll do now is I'll get Matt to place the mullet in my hands. Now, the sand mullet, as against the yellow eye mullet in Victoria, has diamond-shaped scales. You might find it very difficult to see, but there's those diamond-shaped scales. He still has a yellow tinge in his eye, although the top of his eye is not completely golden yellow like our golden or yellow-eyed mullet in Victoria. But he is a sand predator. He hunts the same areas as the whiting, using that big gob to sift through the sand and get those polychaete worms out. We've got the polychaete worms, alias the pod or sandworms. We've got a run-in tide. We've got the good gear. It looks like being a good session. Well, it's been a very, very enjoyable day, and the fish has been a bonus. There's a few people now starting to make their way out to the Flathead and Mulloway grounds in hope for a big fish, particularly at sundown. Just a little bit of a touch on that rod then. The whiting, well, they haven't been tremendously cooperative today, but come here now. It's been very, very enjoyable to be able to do it at our own leisure, and you don't need deep water for these whiting. You can see clearly beyond that whiting there that it's about 3 foot deep. And the yellowfin or sand whiting with southern New South Wales is a very good adversary on the end of the hook and not bad in the frying pan. So when you go away on holidays, you can do it at your leisure. You can dangle or you can angle. And if you specialise, the rules are this. Choose the right area where the fish are likely to feed at various forms of the tide. Use the right gear, and above all, make the effort to get the bait. Because if you do those 3 things, you can't fail, folks. Well, there's no doubt about it. Live bait will outfish dead bait 10 to 1 in my opinion. And in Victoria, most of our live baiting is done in inland waterways, a la worms, mud-eyes, minnows, that type of thing for redfin and trout. But as you get north on the south coast of New South Wales, live bait takes another sort of a side. On the open ocean, they use striped tuna and a little thing called a yakka, which is a yellowtail scad, a member of the cowan young family. In the estuarine waters, there are 2 major bait fish. The first one is called a hardyhead, and he's a little bait fish that grows no bigger than that little guy there. He's shiny, and he's irresistible to big flathead and small jewfish, which I've explained to you many, many times before. We call them mulloway. Now, the major bait species on the south coast of New South Wales, if I can catch you, my friend, is the yellow eye mullet, also known here as poddy mullet. Now, naturally enough, because he's going to go on the end of a hook for live bait, he's not very keen to come to me. Now, what happens is, the hook is rather big. It's a 3-0. Not because the bait is big, but because the prey that we are after, hopefully, has got a big gob, and you can fit a big hook into a big gob, like mine. So, we want him to stay alive. The hook goes in under his chin and out through the top of his lip, and that is a live bait on a hook. He now goes out, and he is consistently swimming for you. And it is this particular swimming action that alerts the predator that there may be food around. And this is the way that nature works. These big flathead and trevally and jewfish, they prey on other things. It's a little bit like the lion taking the sick young goat at the end of the herd when you see it on Disneyland or something like that. They're always looking, these big predators, for something that's injured. If they see this flash of this yellow eye mullet, bang! Thank you very much, there's no tomorrow. Just one tip for you people who have written in and asked me about live bait. I leave them on 10 to 15 minutes. I like to see the end of the rod working like that so everyone knows that the bait is working and therefore the fish is swimming and fishing for you. I then pull it in, throw the bait away and put a new one, because if you've got them going, they're quite easily to catch. So live bait, if you can possibly get it, you're going to enhance your catches tenfold. Man, if you'd be just good enough to move that rod, just had just the slightest touch on that live mullet. You've got to give the flathead a little bit of time to take them. Now, I got him. Can you get that rod out of the way, please, Matty? Got a bit of a flathead on here. He's not going to set any records. However, I think it's a flathead. Now, I think it's a flathead. It is a flathead, and just a nice one. Just a nice one that we... Oh, come here, mate. Just a nice flatty, just to prove how good these live mullet are. Now, flathead there is a dusky flathead, a beauty. And what I'm going to do, seeing that I've got a 15-pound trace on it, I'm going to trace him into the back of the boat, but not while he's kicking like that. I've got his head out of the water for a reason. He's not going to be as good if he's got his head out of the water. And I'm going to just bring him into the boat like that. Now, that is, oh, beautiful dusky flathead of around about 3 pounds. A ripper, a rip snorter in my words. And what we've got to be careful of, that's the way to grab a flathead. When he flares his gills like that, that is the safe way. Because we've told you at Flinders Island, we've told you at Port Phillip Bay, these are the things to watch out for. These are the things that can give you a nasty little wound. So the live bait went on, you saw it quite clearly, the hook went through his lip, and that to me is 3 to 3.5 pounds of dusky flathead, well worth coming up here for. And I can just about smell him in the fry pan, that guy. What a beautiful fish. Welcome aboard, mate. Yeah? Thank you very much. Too hard, you know what I mean? You said pick me up at the pier, like you put me right off. I hope this hasn't spoiled our day.
We are on Eastern Standard Time, mate.
Well, I'm here, all right, and that's the end of the day. Can you just stop the front of the boat there from crashing in and doing all the damage, and just hop on there, will you, and walk over here? That's it. Oh, now,
Rex,
like,
are there any questions?
Now, that is a reason never ever to cross me, okay? Now, when I go fishing, this is my business. Like this is just not a day off for me. This is my business.
I fish the stuff.
Now,
I mean, I cook the stuff.
You've obviously been to the office before you came here. I didn't realise it was fancy dress.
Rex, these are Portsea whiting. They will not take anything except cultivated mussels and cultivated fishermen. I'm sorry, you are not a big chance today.
Well, we'll see about that, because
you are not a big
I have got the great Aussie salute, the no sleeves on underneath here. I tell you what, it's a little bit warm. I'm going to get dressed in the national sort of Rex Hunt uniform, and we'll just see how good it is, mate.
Okay, mate. All right. Well, let's just go out there and see, eh?
Anyhow, we'll start again, all right, mate? How are you, mate? All right?
I'm very well.
Let's go fishing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Rex, these mussels, very, very careful collecting those 3 years ago from Werribee.
Mate, you're a purist. I know that you love to support the people growing the mussels on the ropes, but these have been cultivated at the Springvale tip, mate, and they are just absolutely magnificent. Talking about magnificent, I'm very confident. I know we're early in the tide, folks, but perhaps I'm going a little bit wonko here, but the tide doesn't seem to be running as fast here as where I fish over further.
No, what we've done here, Rex, is just to the left here, there's a massive kelp bed through here where we get calamari on the change of the tide.
Yeah.
Not much sand hole there, 18 to 20 feet. Up here we're on 14 feet, and all the fish that I'm catching here at the moment are spewing worms. So it's obviously a worm bed here.
Well,
on the on 14 odd feet. So it's a fairly critical mark, Rex.
Okay, mate, what do you think? An ounce and a half?
Ounce will do us on this side of the tide, then we'll go down to halfway.
There's an ounce for you, mate.
Thanks,
Pop that
mate.
on and let's see how we go. I've been looking forward to getting together with you, Ian.
Yeah, it's good.
It's been a long time.
Well, let's see if the fish cooperate, eh? I'm using a because we're halfway through the tide, I do like a reasonably long trace, Rex, just so it moves around a little bit.
How do you reckon that one goes?
Mate, you've got jewellery. You've got jewellery on your line.
Look, I know a lot of people are probably sceptical about this type of thing, but I believe fish are creatures of habit, and if you introduce something foreign or alien to their environment, it will create some sort of curiosity. And red beads, you know, I've done particularly well in the southern area of New South Wales in the estuarine systems, and I thought I'd give it a go here today.
Yeah, well, they normally go for worms, though, Rex, and that's probably why, you know, maybe that shows a little bit of roe or something. Is that what you're thinking? Or?
Well, let's find out how we go, eh? Let's check it out, Ian.
This is my knife from home, Rex. This is my steak.
I don't know where the quality fish is. They seem to be just a little bit tentative here at the moment. Now, I don't know.
But it's burrowing, it's burrowing.
Would you mind just looking after that one?
Not a problem.
Now, I like these soft rods, Ian. I don't know what you think of them yourself, and the little tips I've put on the end, you can feel every kick of them, but, it's a whiting.
Yeah, it's a whiting.
It's got to be the way it dives. You see, that is just being able to recognise what fish you've got, and a nice fish too. It's late in the season, Ian. Do you think these bigger fish are going to sort of hang around for a while?
Yeah, well, they're here all year, Rex, on this particular mark.
Isn't it? Mate, come here, mate. You want to get...
Yeah, they like burrowing. They don't like to get out of the water, do they, Rex?
A lot of our people would recognise this as being one of the great eating fish in the sea, the King George whiting. You know, his mouth is underneath his head because he burrows through the sand and gets the polychide worms. And Ian, you were saying earlier on that the worm bank is very, very important.
Yes, Rex, they come up off into this ground here. It's about the size of 2 living rooms, I'd say. And you'll notice their mouths are shaped in such a way as they suck first to get rid of the sand on the top layer, and it'll expose the head of the worm, and then they get that head and drag it out. And that's why the mouth is like that. That's their main diet, is worms.
Well, that's not a bad start. Halfway through an ebb tide, we're coming up to prime time. We've got one in the boat. I reckon we're in for a fair sort of a day, mate.
Great.
You like fishing the running water, Ian?
Oh, I do, Rex, yeah. The run out is a lot better. Oh, Rex, I've got one here. Here he goes.
The run out? What are you saying about the run out?
Run out is definitely the go, I think. Although we have caught... There we go. Fish on the run here will take one-arm bandits.
What are they?
The little saltwater yabbies.
Bass yabby, yeah.
Bass yabby, yeah.
Also known as nippers.
That's right. He's burrowing quite nicely.
A nice little whiting.
Yeah, he's okay. From the same school, I'd say, Rex. Look at him.
Lovely. Tell us a little bit about the King George whiting. You really enjoy fishing for them, and so many of our people who are non-anglers rely on the support of professionals to supply these sort of fish. A lot of them come from South Australia. Have you got a favourite way to cook them? Because so many people overcook fish. Yeah, well, Rex, the whiting is a very clean fish. Anything with that blue flesh, when you cut it, cooks pure white, like rock flathead, snapper and whiting. Ling, that's
it. Yeah, ling,
yeah.
Pure white. Now, this fish, all you do is dust it in flour, skin it or scale it. A little bit of egg and breadcrumb, if you like.
Yeah.
Flesh side down first, never skin. If you put the skin side down, the heat makes it curl.
Yeah.
So always flesh side down in the pan, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes each side, and you've got yourself the $28 main course. One of the best eating fish in the sea. We've got a nice catch here this afternoon. You got anything up your sleeve now besides your arms with the tides getting down? Rex, do you know what we're going to do? What's that? I'm going to guarantee you a pinky. Off Portsea Hotel, where no one fishes.
Guarantee, mate, is a very, very big word on this show. You know that. Weather and fish is a very big guarantee. Say that again.
I am hoping for a pinky.
That's better. Let's go and check it out. Mate, you could blow me over with a cigarette paper here. That's a funny-looking Portsea hotel. Although Mud Island at the bottom of Port Phillip would be a good place for a hotel, wouldn't it? But I suppose we are off the Portsea pub. What, about 15 k's?
Well, we don't want to tell them everything, Rex, but we're in Salmon's Channel. And here we go, we've got one. Now this is a funny little reef here. It runs 8-10 knots, and yet you'll get a lot of parrotfish, and I think this may be a parrotfish, mixed up with whiting, pinkies, and we've got a leathery.
Oh, beautiful.
Now here we go.
Now that's a beautiful 6-spine leather jacket.
Here we go.
Absolutely fantastic. But gee, he swallows the hook, and they're very, very good on the teeth, aren't they?
They are pretty, aren't they?
Yeah, have a look at him. He's got a stomach on him like you wouldn't realise. And have a look at this. Look, just bitings. And what he's done, he's chomped that off, mate.
Yeah.
Aren't they a pretty, pretty fish? 6-spine leather jacket. Beautiful blue, some greys and fawns and yellows, but there's the 6 spines on his tail. And that signifies, mate, that you're going right into the box, because I tell you what, with a little bit of an entree, Ian, of leather jacket, and then a main course of whiting, followed by sweets with something else. But we're doing all right here.
What wine would you have with that, Rex?
Wine? I don't drink wine, mate. I don't need anything to get my engine going. I don't know whether it's what we're looking for, but here, oh.
Yeah, there's a go.
I reckon it's not a small snapper because he's not kicking enough, but I reckon it could be a channel whiting. Now, it's the same whiting, it's a King George whiting, but out here, they get a little bit bigger. Now, you South Australians really have got the home of King George whiting, but we don't get them as big as you do over Kangaroo Island, that sort of thing. But this is a substantial fish, Ian. And on such light gear,
a lot of fun.
See how this tide is now just about, there's only, what, a 15th of it to go, about 10 minutes. And you, look, I love this sort of fishing. He's a nice whiting.
Nice whiting.
He's a nice whiting, man. Have a look at him down there. Like, he's not a thumper in terms of a kilo or anything. Mate, he's 1.25 pounds, £1.5, £1.6 are the best whiting that you'd want to see, mate. Now, I'm not disappointed that we haven't got a small snapper here, but that to me, well, that represents one of the best fighting fish in the sea, one of the best eating fish in the sea. Look at that red bead again. You know, look, people say, oh, it's a lot of rubbish and hoo-ha and it's fairy floss and that sort of thing. But I tell you what, so many people say to me, folks, you know, look, really, if you had a chance, if this was your last day on earth and you had to fish somewhere, well, I couldn't go past the southern end of Port Phillip Bay, my beloved Port Phillip Bay, catching King George whiting. Absolutely marvellous, and I'm just very, very fortunate to be here. But Ian, the pressure's going on you now. I'm having some people around after the show tonight, and they've ordered calamari. Can you or will you help me out?
Only if you give me some beads, Rex. Well, it's a lovely spot here, Rex. Just a light little reef, the spit that comes out, sand either side.
Just amazing that the big ships are virtually a couple of good Rex Hunt drop kicks away in the beautiful shipping channel, and yet this is just pristine area, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only about 4 or 5 foot deep. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Look, got one. Has taken it. Here he comes.
Wow.
Well,
gee, they're pretty looking fish in the water, the calamari, aren't they?
Yeah, there he goes. He's taken that Yuzuri, little orange one.
Do you find there's any time better than any other to come here?
Oh, just the top of, or bottom of either tide.
Yeah.
We're fishing just the start of the run in here.
Yeah.
He's only a little fella, Rex, but he's cute.
Yeah.
What you do with these, I don't like a net myself. I just get them behind the neck like that.
Yeah.
And just bring them up. And he's taken those on the lower feeders. See?
Yeah.
There he is. There.
He's got rid of his ink.
No, he's going to over you in a minute, Rex.
Well, I hope so. What do you do with him once you get him in?
Well, that's the end of him. He can just go in a bucket.
Okay. Well, pop him in the bucket. Is he going to? Will he sort of? They seem to be very, very, very clever at disguising themselves with camouflage, don't they? He's probably not going to go yellow, but he'll mould in there all right, won't he?
Yeah, they're amazing, aren't they?
All right. Well, seeing we're in prime time, I think we might see if we can get half a dozen of these.
Yeah, maybe something a bit bigger, or even a cuttlefish, maybe.
Well, you never know, mate. You find with these Zeri squid jigs, or any squid jig, that if you just give it a little bit of a tease, you know, the squid might be eyeballing. He might be going up and say, if you move it, he'll grab it. Now, we're on a bit of a hot spot here at the moment.
It's not bad, is it?
There's a lot of people, particularly the ethnic community here in Melbourne and around the country, who use hand lines. I prefer rods. Now, I'm a rod fisherman. I love using rods, and I'll see if I've learnt from what Ian's taught me. Well, he's a nice little calamari. Now, I wonder whether he's going to be good enough to get rid of his ink in the water, Ian?
Yeah.
Or he's going to put it all over me. First of all, mate, I'd like you to point the other direction. Oh, this is close, Ian. I reckon he might be going.
Yeah.
I think he's upset. You know what he said? He said, "That's Rex Hunt, and you watch my show." Mate, thank you very much. You don't like me much, do you? Well, I can tell you now, he's given me a nice old dose of the old business. Mate, you're going to be in a frying pan. He's given me a dose. He's given you folks a dose at home too. Yibbity yibbita. We all copped it, folks. One of the most important things in any style of fishing, be it fresh or salt water, is you have to read the water. Read the water to the extent of knowing where the structures are. The structures in this case are light sand going into dark weed, and this is the home of the southern calamari. But one of the most important things is, Ian, when you tie on that calamari jig, the squid jig, is you just don't throw it out there and they don't commit suicide.
No, we're fishing in about 10 foot of water here, Rex. So you wouldn't want to be leaving it out in the water too long. It'll end up in the bottom. And if you get weed on that jig at the bottom on the prongs, you'll not catch a calamari. So what we do is we cast it out like you would like anything else. Cast her out. Let her settle there just for a minute. Oh, give her about 30 seconds. So she'll get down about 5 or 6 feet. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to work that with my rod. Every now and again, just work it up, bring it down. Bring it in towards you, up, down. And that gives the lure a jerking action in underneath the water, and this of course attracts the squid.
Just like that. We'll have a look at that. It did work.
Well, it does work.
It does work. Amazing. He's just a little fellow, probably bait size. He can almost go back, that fella, but have a look at the colours on it. Well, thanks very much, mate. You've done the old trick again. Just absolutely marvellous. I'm going to let this guy go because I reckon we're in for a couple of good fish here, Ian.
Yep.
You reckon he might be pleased to see the end of me? Well, have a look at him. You reckon he'd take that again, Ian?
Well, he just might. Yeah, they're pretty silly.
Are they?
Well, I eat plastic
prawns. He's not so silly, mate. No, he's gone. He's headed off. Well, it looks like it's going to happen here with the tide. Let's see if we can knock a few off for tea, eh?
Good idea. Well, we've got another one here, Rex. Come in. A little bit deeper water. He may be a bigger fish, I hope.
No doubt about it.
I let that drop a little bit deeper.
Did you?
Yeah, and yeah, he's a slightly better fish, as you can see.
Yeah.
Lovely.
They must breed like flies, do they?
Well, they're fairly intelligent. They take plastic prawns.
See, they're a pretty colour too in the water.
Look at him, look at that.
And have a look at his mate over there, Ian.
Yeah, well, you can get... Yeah, there he is. Yeah. His mate's in underneath. If you threw another lure around there, you'd get him. There goes a bit of ink. Just behind the neck. Look at that. Yeah.
Well, that's terrific.
Just sensei. Of course, we have the Italians and the Greeks to thank us for eating these. Rex, 15 years ago, we would just use these for bait, wouldn't we?
There's no doubt about this. They're fine piscatorial delights on the plate, aren't they?
Sensational.
Yeah. Ian, I want to thank you because what you've done is you've given up your day when you should be cooking fish and chips for your boss. And I just want to say how delightful it's been to fish with you on television, because you and I have had many, many great days on the water. And what I get across to our people on the show is that that's most of the fun of fishing, sharing it with someone.
Exactly, Rex.
I hope you've enjoyed it.
Well, it's been a great day.
Will you join us again on a Rex Hunt trek to a marvellous piscatorial wilderness?
Most definitely. Preferably as far away from Portsea as possible, so it costs plenty of money.
You know, one of the things that really gets up my skirt or my trousers is so many people are meticulous in their fishing, but they don't look after their fish. Look, half of the enjoyment of catching fish is eating them. A King George whiting, absolutely magnificent. You can scale them, you can put the knife into the vent and gut them and bake them, but I prefer just to take simply a fillet straight off the edge of the fish. And there's our beautiful fillet. Now, there's a row of the rib cage bones, which I can just get out by simply running the knife down there like that, throwing the entrails back into the sea, because that will be gone in a couple of hours, and then running the knife up from the tail. I go that far, and then all I do is pull the skin and the flesh between the knife, and what happens then is a beautiful, beautiful fillet of King George whiting that will melt in the mouth. If you have to wash it, you dip it into salt water. Always, but always, folks, clean the fish in the water you caught them in. If you caught trout or yellow belly, clean them in fresh water. If you catch King George whiting, you clean them in salt water. Now, that is absolutely magnificent, and so is this. He's got a little bit of an old gut on him, this fella. He's a leather jacket, the old 6-spiner. And the simple thing to do with these is behind the spine, go down through the top of the neck and the backbone and pull away. Now what happens is that it gets all his gut cavity away, and that goes over the side for the crabs and that to eat. And then we just simply do an Elvis Presley job on him, the old leather jacket. We leave your hat on, but we take his coat off. And by simply running the forefinger and the thumb between all of the meat, what we can do is successfully denude this particular fellow. And what I prefer to do is that I prefer just to egg and breadcrumb them, or a little bit of flour in hot oil, and that is absolutely fantastic. If you must, or you want to take a fillet off, what you can do is you can run down alongside the backbone, take it through there like that, and once again, quite simply, taking away that rib cage bone, and that's getting all the bones out of there so they don't get stuck in grandma or the kiddie's throat, washing it in the water, and there you are, folks. King George whiting, 6-spine leather jacket, a couple of days with a little bottle of wine. Absolutely magnificent. Most important things in going fishing anywhere is local knowledge, and one of the best pieces of local knowledge we have on board today with Jeff Wilson and myself. John Brace has lived in this area around Streaky Bay in Western South Australia since the early 1950s, and for over a quarter of a century he professionally fished these waters. Now John, what are we after today? I know that they're razorfish, and a lot of our people who saw our Waiala show would know that. What actually is a razorfish?
It's a shellfish, very sharp. We use basically for bait here, but it's also got an added interest as it's a very delicate food source.
Yes.
And very much sought after as just for the hearts, which are the muscle that joins the two shells together. Are
they commercially under any pressure at all?
No, they're not commercially under pressure, because the South Australian government in their fisheries management won't allow people to take them for commercial purposes.
That is a fantastic instrument. That is the best pair of tongs I've seen. I might get it for a barbecue. We might barbecue a nice big fish or something, but is this your own little contraption?
Yeah. This one's mine. I reckon I've had this one about 20 years.
Have you really?
I used to be an engineer here years ago that basically invented these.
Yeah, so you just drift over the top and take them. Do you find that there are certain areas where these particular bivalve mollusks are bound?
Yeah, I picked this area here because it hasn't got as much mud as a lot of the other areas, and your heart's a lot cleaner.
Well, you can see that the environment just loves them. You've got the cockles and the barnacles and that sort of thing, and apparently fantastic bait for whiting. John, why do we only get razorfish in South Australia?
I believe, I'm not too certain, but I believe it's got something to do with the Dodge tide situation, and of course water temperature would come into it as well.
Well, I can tell you now, the old razorfish, Jeffrey, well, what we've got here apparently is the best bait for King George whiting. We didn't come for razorfish, but we've really, this is fantastic. Razorfish, my hooks are razor sharp. Jeff and I are ready to hit the big, big whiting of South Australia's Streaky Bay. Jeffrey, you getting a bite there?
Well, I had one, just a touch
down.
Tell you what.
Put your rod down and come over here and grab this other rod of mine. I've got a fish on here, but this one just went. I want you to take the slack up on that. I don't know whether it was a whiting or not. Take the slack. Oh, very nicely, Jeff. He shouldn't be far away there because there he goes, Jeff.
Yes,
Strike.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Jeff, you're like a rigor mortis saurus or whatever they call them. Unbelievable. Now, mate, we're going to have to do a little bit of... You ever seen those model aeroplanes, the way they go in and out and they pirouette and that sort of thing? Jeff, you're fishing, you're not playing a violin, for God's sake. Pull it in, we haven't got enough tape. Now, I've lost mine. Now, Jeff, this is beautiful. What do you think of the outfit?
That's lovely, isn't it? I love those nibble tips.
Do you? I don't mind them myself either. Tell you what, you've got a nice fish on here. I reckon you might have a lovely King George whiting.
That's a King George whiting, Rex.
Just fantastic.
There you are.
Please stop whiting at the end of that tip, Jeff. There's a swivel on the end of that. You lift it in, mate. You lift it in. I tell you what, I just wanted to go through there. Here's another 1 pound fish in the old scale. Now he's on the top snood. Now see that little red bead? That goes down on top of the hook, and that's what I reckon attracts the fish. We've got a number 8 swivel up the top to prevent any line twist. 12 pound line down to a snood of about 35-40 centimetres long, down to a figure 8 loop knot, and you can see that in Jeff Wilson's marvellous knot book, because if you get a tide and you want to change the sinker, it's just a matter of just taking the loop off like that, and you can take the sinker off and going down another 50 centimetres to another hook with another bead and a bit of squid. So there you are, the King George whiting rig of the eastern parts of the country working in the western parts of the country. Absolutely fantastic. The King George whiting, to my mind, folks, king of the sea. You know, there's nothing I'd rather be than out in a boat at the sea. And I don't know any more verses, but it's just absolutely fantastic. Just because you never know what you're going to get in whiting fishing. Look, I'm quite happy just to sit here all day catching whiting. But oh, have a look at this. The whiskered goatfish, well, that is the technical name. It's a member of the goatfish family, and also known in the eastern states as a red mullet, one of the pretty fish of the sea. Have a look at the colours. Bigger whiskers than the bearded burbler, old Rexy boy. And I'm going to release him, but I tell you what, I'll kiss him, because the Greek fellows reckon that these are an aphrodisiac. Now, not only that, they're apparently very, very good when you're, you know what I mean. I'll give you a little bit of a kiss, young lady, and put you back. And if these are an aphrodisiac, I think we better get some more bait, boys, because I want to catch a couple of kilos of this, because I'm in a bit of trouble at 44 years of age. See you later, baby. Oh, and you jump for joy, and away you go. Well, Jeff, when you're whiting fishing, particularly in our neck of the woods, you would think that the bait board would be just absolutely littered with pippy, bass yabby, mussel, anything but razorfish and squid, although we do use squid a little bit. But the razorfish, an interesting customer. Jeff, have a look at that.
Absolutely marvellous, Rex. Well, actually, this is the mussel which holds the two shells together. As we all know, the razorfish is a bivalve mollusk.
Yeah.
And this is the part which is mainly favourite of bait, also very, very good to eat.
Yeah.
But this is the body of the razorfish, the body and gut of the razorfish, which is also very good for burley, also very, very good for bait.
Quite a full shell, isn't it?
Well, yes, there's quite a bit of meat in there.
Now, what about the old, is it a cephalopod, the squid, is it? Do you like that, Jeff?
A cephalopod.
A cephalopod. Well, I didn't go to the same school as you, but I tell you what, tell us a little bit about it and show us how we prepare it for whiting.
Oh, well, the squid, Rex, is just simply cut up for whiting. Just simply open the squid right up through the mantle with a knife, just simply like that. Now, I've done a bad thing here. I've broken the ink sac, but you can't win every time.
No.
I simply take the head and the insides straight out like that, and what you're left with is the body, which has the backbone in there. I just simply take the backbone out. So just a transparent bone like a feather. Just simply take that out from the body of the squid, and all it's now that's left to do is to take the wings or fins from the body, and what we're left with is a nice white piece of flesh. Well, it will be a nice white piece of flesh when I give it a rinse in the water.
All right, I'll do that for you then. So why are squid such good bait, Jeffrey?
Well, for one thing, Rex, the fish like to eat them, but probably what is most important is they're very, very firm indeed.
Wash your hands, please, Jeff. Very firm, yeah?
Very, very firm indeed. They stay on the hook, and whereas if you're using a pippy, a mussel or something like that, the first bite may take the bait completely off the hook. You always have a second, third or fourth chance with squid.
Now, if I was a whiting fisherman using squid on a regular basis, I would use something like that, but it appears, Jeff, that the way they do it over here is they either beat that with a mallet or they kill it. And what they do is they soften it up so the whiting can...
Makes you hungry, doesn't it?
Doesn't make me hungry. But how would you reckon that would go for a bit of bait?
Absolutely wonderful, Rex.
Well, it all looks fantastic. And this heart here, apparently this is what they eat. And here we are, Johnny Brace, our skipper, has prepared a little bit of pre-fishing lunch for us. Jeff, there you are, don't eat it all at once.
Absolutely magnificent.
You think it is? Well, I'll give it a go myself. Is it all right?
Delightful. Absolutely delightful.
I tell you what, it is delightful. I just hope the fish find it the same way.
Very nice.
One more, Jeff?
I'm saying sour.
No doubt about it. Wherever you go, burley is the operative word in relation to schoolfish. It attracts the fish into the area where you're fishing. And, oh, I had a bit of a touch there, Jeffrey. Your rod's going there too, mate, so we're starting to get a little bit of action.
Bit of movement there.
I tell you what, I've got mine, and it's another little whiskered goatfish. You on?
Yes, we've got something
Good
here,
man.
Rex.
No worries. Well, this is now starting to come into a nice bit of time. I'll put mine back there, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind. There he goes. We might concentrate on what Jeff's got on over here.
I don't think it's anything to be excited about.
Well, King George whiting at the price it is in the market. It's not?
Well, it could be. It's a flathead.
It's a lovely flathead.
It's a flathead.
Beauty.
Well, there you are.
I tell you what, we're getting a lovely array of piscatorial delights there, Jeffrey.
Absolutely.
And what sort of a flathead is that?
Well, let's have a look at it.
What do you reckon?
That's one of the blue spot flatheads, Rex. See how the spines on the operculum are even in length?
But it's got white spots, Jeff.
Yeah, well, the white spots can be blue spotted.
So it's a blue, white spotted flathead.
No, it's a blue spotted flathead.
Tell you what, I just had something take my other rod there, so we're on a red hot bite here. So no matter where you fish, get into the burley, locate the fish, learn to read the water. That is one of the most important lessons here today. Read the water. Johnny Brace brought us out. Local knowledge is the go here at Streaky Bay. He knows it like the back of his hand. Light and dark patches is the essence in King George whiting fishing. Have a look at this, Jeff. I tell you what, there's some lovely fish around. Now that's a nice King George whiting, mate. I tell you what, that is absolutely fantastic. You know, fishing is a great pastime. It doesn't matter whether you own acres upon acres or big buildings or you're on the dole. It doesn't matter. It's a great pastime. Jeff, what would you do if you were a rich man? Really, what would you do?
If I were a rich man, diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-dum, all day long I'd go fishing just for fun, if I were a wealthy man.
Well, Jeffrey, you are not a rich man, diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-dum, so don't come out here sitting on your big fat bum. I've got another one, Jeff. You wouldn't read about this, would you? I tell you what, we're rehearsing that. That's just... Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry. Really, what I've got to do is pull in 2 South Australian whiting. Can you believe that? Unbelievable, mate. And you know, folks, the best way to catch 2 fish, you know, Jeffrey, what is it?
2 hooks.
2 hooks, mate. I tell you what, you can't catch 2 fish with 2 hooks. But King George whiting, South Australian, are we going to have a feast tonight? Fantastic. The famous King George whiting, one of Australia's finest fighting fish, and I suppose eaten more than any other fish around Australia. And Rene Graber has joined me. He's the executive chef here at the International Lakes Hotel. Just a couple of Andrew Jarman drop kicks from Footy Park. Good to see you here, Rene.
Pleased to meet you.
How long have you been a chef?
Nearly 31 years.
31 years?
Yes. Coming up to that in August.
And do you enjoy really cooking fish nicely?
Love it.
What's the secret in cooking fish for our people at home?
I would say rather undercooked than overcooked.
Fair dinkum. So,
Specifically a fine fish like whiting.
do you think far too many at home looking at you today will overcook fish and then say, oh, I didn't enjoy it and don't go back to it?
That's the biggest mistake.
Now, am I right in saying whiting, lovely to catch and beautiful to eat?
One of the finest in Australia.
You've got one of your rip-snorting recipes for us, Renee.
Yes.
Take it away, son.
Here we go. There is some butter in a pan, skillet, or whatever you like to use. Spread some chopped onions in it. Place the whiting in it. Then we add some white wine.
Oh, I like that.
And nothing else, because the fish, being fresh, has a flavor of its own, and it will come out just nice and natural that way.
Gee, that looks just very, very simple.
Now, of course, we leave it there for about 8, 9, 10 minutes. Meanwhile, we can prepare our vegetable to go with it. Again, plain and simple, not to spoil the delicate flavor of the fish. When the fish is been in the oven about 10 minutes, I would say, for if you use whiting fillets, 2 minutes will be plenty. Again, undercook rather than overcook. Here we go. Take the fish out.
So that's just been cooking in its...
in its wine, its own juice, with a bit of onions.
Gee, that just looks lovely.
What we do next, we skin it. As you can see, it's beautiful white skin. Flesh, I mean. And
that's just the highlight of King George whiting. That it's just a beautiful texture, isn't it?
It is absolutely magnificent.
Yes.
And we do that on both sides. Don't be shy to use fingers, because it's safer, it's very delicate, easy to break up.
Right.
We place it on the plate.
Gee.
Then we go over and prepare our sauce, which is a basic white wine sauce. Any housewife, anybody could quite easily prepare.
So a nice white wine sauce.
Excuse me, Nick.
Certainly.
I need this.
Oh, beautiful.
Lovely white wine sauce. Now we strain that juice, which of course has a lovely fish flavor.
Gee.
We strain that into our white wine sauce, which
Beauty.
enhances the whole dish tremendously.
Gee, that smells lovely. Oh, not bad, eh? Oh, you don't mind.
Bring it to the boil, simmer it a couple of minutes. Now we add fresh marjoram and fresh thyme. Of course, there's nothing wrong with using dried herbs if you happen not to have the availability to fresh.
Right.
And as you can see, I put quite a bit in it. It is a complementary flavor to any delicate fish.
Certainly.
And right at the end, we add a bit of chopped parsley. Again, quite a bit.
Gee, you're certainly not shy on putting a bit in. Looks just lovely, doesn't it?
Bring it nicely to the boil. Then we go back to our whiting.
Gee.
Pour it over it.
Now, our viewers at home can smell this, you know, through the television set.
I wish television could make the smell.
I'm telling you, it is.
It'd be lovely.
I can hear the phones ringing now for that lovely recipe. What are you calling this? Because this looks just so simple.
This is called whiting sugoise. It's actually a Swiss recipe.
Is it really?
Yeah, we do that, I used to do it when I was in Switzerland, with any delicate fish from the lakes there. And here I adapted it to the King George whiting.
So if it's from Switzerland, if I eat this, I might be able to yodel, might I? Yodel-a-dee-doo.
It does work, yes.
It does, see, yeah, and I've only smelled it, I haven't eaten it. But I tell you what, it's not going to be long before I taste this magnificent concoction here. That is just absolutely superb.
Complemented, a bit of fresh herbs, and you have a perfect dish for a good dinner party ready.
Well, if I cooked it for my guests, we might use a bit of tea tree or something, but that looks absolutely sensational. I can tell you now, you know what's going to happen to that one. But isn't it marvellous when we go out and catch fish that it can end up like something like that without a minimum, with a minimum of fuss, I should say. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to achieve.
Well,
And we don't take the flavour away from the fish.
isn't that marvellous? Renee, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rex.
Give it a go. Magnificent. The Great Australian Bite, all part of Australia's marvellous Southern Ocean here in southern South Australia on a very good day. But over the years, many mariners have come to grief along this particular stretch of water, and that's why it pays to take care in small boats and when you're fishing off the rocks and the surf. Now, Jeff Wilson and I are here at the express invitation of the Streaky Bay Progress Society, and they reckon that this particular place behind us is a red-hot fishing place. When you look at the roughness of that particular ocean out there, no wonder they call this the smooth pool. Okay, Jeffrey, go with it, baby. Bite here, Jeffrey. Just what I've done, because it's so rocky and so weedy, is no sinker. Just a couple
There
of...
you are, Rex, and you're on.
Jeffrey. I don't know what it is, but we're going to soon find out. We're going to soon find out, mate, because it hardly hit the bottom. It's performing like a whiting. I don't know. I was thinking of some sort of trevally or sweep, but that diving thing, I can't see much here because it's so dark. But I tell you what, I reckon it is a whiting. I tell you what. Now, can you believe that, Jeff? I can't. I can now because I just caught him.
George whiting, absolutely.
But that is a lovely King George whiting.
Well done, Rex.
I tell you what, and here's a place where, well, we're in a little dinghy, and folks, you have to be careful when you're really using dinghies like this, although this is, you can't get much trouble here, but make sure there's always a couple of you, and make sure all your safety gear's on board. But it just seemed to us that fishing off the ledge, well, you may get caught in the kelp or the rocks, and Jeff, that's not a bad sort of a whiting.
That's a very, very nice whiting, Rex.
My word. Well, we came here for trevally and we've caught a King George whiting. The bonus of fishing. You never know what you're going to get. And that's why we all go fishing. It's called the mystery of the hunt. No pun intended, folks. Jeff, this is frustrating for me because I'm using no sinker. I think it's another whiting that had a go at it. But horses for courses, I think it's a good lesson for the viewers that no matter where you're fishing, you've got to really just go with the elements, reading the water, sizing up the situation, the tide's on the way out, the water's getting shallower, shallower and shallower. And you see, this could be another whiting by the way he's darting around, Jeff.
Rex, absolutely.
Now, I'm pretty pleased. You know why, Jeff? Because I've had to think like a fish. And while it's getting a little bit shallow here, this little deep drop-off has been the downfall of these particular fish. Now, don't they go with this beautiful light rod? There's no doubt about it. And it's another whiting. Like, or is it? I reckon it could be a trevally.
I don't think it is a whiting, Rex.
I saw the silver,
Saw the flash then.
Can you start seeing the way that he's starting to go thump, thump? Look at the action of that. Now, that's a good lesson for people, isn't it? I'm not pulling, the fish is pulling, and what I'm doing is I am using that rod as a shock absorber. It's a sort of a piscatorial bungee sort of a thing, isn't it?
Exactly, Rex.
I'm going to lift this fish in. I reckon what we've got is a trevally. I'm
right.
sure we've got as a trevally. Now, isn't that just absolutely marvellous? Now, gee whiz, the old trevally. Beautiful to eat, a nice oily fish. The tail signifies just power personified. A little mouth, so what we do is we use long shank number 6 or number 4 hooks, baited with pippy. They call them in South Australia cockle. And Jeff, there is no way known that the South Australian cockle isn't one of the finest baits in the sea.
Absolutely marvellous bait, Rex.
Just absolutely a top all-round bait. And this is a top all-round spot. A not bad company either, folks.
Cut me off on the reeds, on the rocks.
You had one on, did you, Jeffrey?
Oh, he ran right around the back there, right round over there, and cut me off over there. While he was
Jeff, I won't be singing any songs this time, Jeff, but you know the famous piano player that James Dean was on with Humphrey Bogart? You know what he said?
I don't know.
He said,
Rex.
"Play it again, Sam." You know what I'm going to say? Play it again, Jeff.
Did you see that, Rex?
Jeffrey, have a look at the end of that rod now. That fish, I'm just giving him some line. He doesn't even know he's on, but he does now. He must know.
He'd have to, wouldn't he?
I tell you what, you know, Jeff, I'm like you. You're a journalist. I'm a TV, a radio man, a journalist on fishing. We have the opportunity of travelling all over the globe and catching fish probably bigger than ourselves. You know, I really get a kick out of light line fishing, and I think the folks at home really appreciate it too.
Well, I think that's where the fun is, Rex. I mean, you can have the fun without the emotional involvement of catching big fish.
Yeah. Another medium-sized trevally that are absolutely just beautiful. That's one of the best eating size fish as far as I'm concerned.
Love the little fish.
And don't they fight? You know, and folks, what I haven't got is I haven't got a sinker on because we're fishing in a broken ground area. Broken ground is a mixture of shell, weed, rocks, boulders. And what have you got, Jeffrey? You've got
I'd rather not say.
a parrotfish, have you? But I tell you what, it's a fair sign that something's going to happen. The old parroty, Jeffrey. They've got a decent set of dentures, haven't they?
Yes.
A decent set of dentures there, mate.
Got a decent set of dorsal spines too.
Yeah, they have too.
Don't know whether I've encountered this particular little chap before. Oops.
I wonder why they were put on the planet.
Oh, probably just to annoy us, Rex.
Do you think so?
I would say so, yeah.
But he's a lovely little fella.
He's a lovely little
Will we slip him back?
I think we'll slip
You
him
want
back.
to kiss him, Jeff?
I won't kiss him, Rex, if you don't mind. I'll just slip him back in the water.
That's all right. Well, I'm going to kiss this one. You know why? Because he's going on my dinner plate tonight. Thank you very much. Another one.